Hey guys! Yeah, I had no clue how to start this video. I couldn't think of a simile, so I just went with the generic. My name is VideoJames, and we're back with another thoughts and opinions video. So, I did get a fairly decent, like a fairly decent turnout for the first one of these videos that I did on the first episode of Volume 6, Episode 1 of RWBY. I got a fairly decent turnout for my channel, which is typically anything over 3 views, honestly. And anything involving a like or a dislike or a comment typically means at least better than my average. But since that one did well enough, I decided I would keep this series going and keep it going with RWBY, and maybe start it with stuff like, I don't know, Sword Art Online, the new one. I might go back and start rewatching that and redo thoughts on that. But before we get into this episode of the thoughts and reactions on RWBY, I want to say that I will be remaking my Volume 6 Episode 1 thoughts, because that one, not only did I feel like I left a lot of stuff out after rewatching it, like after watching that video, I realized, okay, I left a lot of stuff out that should have been in there, but I also realized that after rewatching the episode, I felt like I kind of had judged it a little too harshly, and I had kind of just looked at it from face value, and I didn't really look into it anymore. And after watching it more and more a couple times, because I've watched it like 3 times now, so after watching it those 2 extra times, I realized, hey, why did I think this again? So I'm probably going to end up remaking that, just so you guys know. So the old one will be getting deleted soon, and a new one will be getting made. Probably not this week, because I'm kind of strapped for time this week. Maybe next week, although next week I'm probably going to be even more strapped for time, so it might be sometime one of these nights for this next week that I record it. I don't know. It's gonna vary. Regardless, today's video is actually going to be on Volume 6, Episode 2. Now, Volume 6, Episode 2 is actually pretty good. Like, it's actually probably one of the best episodes of RWBY so far. I really did like it. And there's a lot of stuff with this episode, so let's just dive right in. Oh, and by the way, spoilers. Obviously, because it's our thoughts and opinions on an episode, people probably haven't seen it, so there's going to be spoilers. But anyway, Volume 6, Episode 2 starts out with everyone's favorite antagonist, Cinder. I'm just kidding, Torchwick, best antagonist in RWBY. We see Cinder, and we see she's in some kind of lake or river or something, and we see she's actually still alive. She's not really completely dead yet, and most of the ice that was on her has actually been gotten rid of, which I actually thought that when she got frozen back in Volume 5 and she fell, she actually hit something and crashed into like a million pieces, but apparently the ice just broke off of her mostly as she hit the water, and it sounded more like ice shattering than water splashing, I guess. But we see she's still alive, and we see that she's also fairly weak, that her Fall Maiden powers and her fire powers aren't exactly as strong as they were back in Volume 5. So this could be attributed to a couple of reasons. It could just be that just because she just now regained consciousness, she might not be as energetic as she was back in that volume. Or it could be that since she was so close to death, that her powers might have actually been drained and transferred to the person she was thinking about. But I would probably be leaning towards the second one, because, as we all know, the maiden doesn't have to completely die for her power to go away, but just a little bit of death can actually cause the power to move. So we see her climbing out of this lake and like leaving the underneath of the Haven ruins and the Haven temple. So we see her leaving that, and then we also see the lady who was wearing the attire that Cinder was wearing in the opening in the trailer. Yes, the lady in the opening of the trailer is actually Cinder. That lady wearing like the cloak outfit, that is actually her. So we see the lady trying to help her, and she sees the Grimmarm, and she of course gets scared. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna just back up now. But then Cinder looks up and she's like, hey, I need your clothes, your wallet, and your motorcycle. Then we go to a part that I really am not really liking, which is a cut to what I'm assuming happened immediately after Volume 5. Like, this had to have happened immediately after the events of Volume 5 took place, which was Team RWBY and Team Junior and Crow sitting in the house that they were in Volume 5 talking about why they need to go to Atlas. Now, in some respects, I'm glad for this. I'm glad that we get the explanation of why they wanted to go to Atlas. Like, they wanted to get to General Ironwood. They wanted to get to him and try to convince him to guard the relic so that they could actually keep it safe, while at the same time help them look for the other relic. In this scene, we also get a part of the scene where Ozpin is actually back in control. He's actually still alive. Well, still alive. He's gotten most of his energy back, and he is in control of Oscar's body, and he explains what the Relic of Knowledge is. And the basic rundown of it is it's a genie lamp that works every 100 years. So you get 3 questions, you can ask it, and it'll answer any question, but it only does 3 every 100 years. So it's like, okay, that's a pretty good restriction, actually. Waste up all the questions, and the enemy has to wait like 100 years to use it if they get their hands on it. And while Ozpin is explaining this, he also says that he used up all of the questions for the relic. Keep that in mind. That's going to come into play later. That is definitely going to come into play later, and it is going to be very important. So we see this, and then we see Nora getting all excited and jumping around and asking, like, what can we ask it, what can we ask it? And I really like that. I really like that they're keeping, like, some of the originalities for some of the characters. Like, Nora still got all her energetic, all her buzzing around Nora-ness to her. And Ren's still got his calmness, and everyone else still is basically just everyone else. They still retain most of who they were before Volume 3, but now they're more mature. So I like that they're kind of keeping all the character development that they had, and at the same time they're also keeping what they started out with. And then we do cut back to the scene after the train crash, which, honestly, I really hope that they stop doing this. Like, I hope that Rooster Teeth and the animation department at Rooster Teeth stops doing, like, the thing where they cut from before something should have even happened to when something is happening to after something's happened. Because the way they're doing it right now is really disorienting to me. Because, like, if any of you have seen episode 1 yet, you'll know what I mean, because it cuts to, like, it has a part from the fight scene in episode 1, and it cuts that out of the bigger fight scene, which is the same fight scene that they just include at the end anyway. And I really don't like the way they're structuring it, honestly. It doesn't feel right to me. It honestly makes it a little hard to watch at times. But yeah, in this scene, we see everyone's mad at Oz. Like, everyone's mad. And most of it is because of the reveal that the relic attracts Grimm, which they weren't told. They were not at all told that the relic could attract Grimm. Oz is just, like, on the train when they're attacking, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, this thing's basically a magnet for them. So everyone's mad, everyone's all looking at him like, why you no tell us this? And then when Oscar is actually saying, I believe we're all due an explanation, and Ozpin takes control back, Ozpin is not really getting a rooting for a good guy right now. He's really getting a rooting for everyone wants to take him out. I feel that not only did Ozpin not tell them about the relic intentionally, but he also told the lie about Haven, and he fabricated the whole, oh, Lionheart was good when this was happening, and everyone who was good, and everyone who was bad, and it was just all one big coordinated attack by these bad people. So Ozpin made up the story we heard in episode 1 of Volume 6, and he told everybody. And he said he did it intentionally because he wanted people to remember Lionheart as he was. Now, some people may be saying, oh, he just wants to keep the people confident in the people who are running their country. I'm pretty sure he's doing it to save his own skin. Because Ozpin really gets defensive in a lot of this episode, and this is just the first example of it. Like, Ozpin really gets defensive when it comes to the story about Haven. Like, he's like, yeah, this was what should have happened. I know this is what I should have done. And no one agrees with him. Not even Crow, not even RWBY agree with him. Everyone is just against him at this point, and they just do not want him to succeed, because he is not doing Like, he's not being good Ozpin. He's being bad Ozpin. He's being like, if any of you have ever played Icarus, the DS game, and you've seen the game where Dark Pit is included, Ozpin's being that right now. Ozpin's basically being the Dark Pit equivalent of the Ozpin we started out with. And then Yang says something along the lines of, we aren't going to betray you, so why aren't you telling us everything? And Ozpin loses it. Like, Ozpin just flips his lid in the scene, and this might just be a little bit of conspiracy in my head, but Yang really is starting to act a bit like Raven. Yang is really starting to get as distrustful towards Ozpin as Raven was, which, after this point, I would definitely expect Yang to be like, boy no, I'm gonna attach a lie detector to you so I know when you lying. Because at this point, Ozpin has lied more than probably anyone I've seen in any other show. Like, Ozpin probably lied even more than Loki. And that's a stretch, because Loki lies about everything. Ozpin also says, do you think Lionheart was the first? So, what, did Ozpin have more people turn on him like that? Because you might want to reconsider who you're hiring there, buddy. Then as Ozpin's going on his rant about how what he did was right and they should all trust him, he realizes he doesn't have the relic, and he's like, where is it? And then RWBY has it. And we can tell Ozpin really doesn't want anyone to have that relic. He really wants to just keep it to himself. He does not want anyone near it. And seeing RWBY with it, you can tell how freaked out he is, because he gets freaked out. Now, there's also a part in this where there's a part that Ozpin's like, give me the relic, because it's his burden to bear. And everyone's questioning why it's his burden to bear. Why does he have to carry it? And that's a very valid question. Why do you need to carry it, Oz? Like, if you already use the power, why doesn't it matter? That's going to tie into what I said earlier, will tie in later, and it'll tie in a minute. Victor kind of takes over Ozpin when he tries to get the relic, and he kind of holds him in place, and he's like, use the relic because Ozpin is hiding something, and you need to know what he's hiding. Like, I know, but you all need to know too. So he's holding them back, and he's explaining how to use the relic, and then RWBY ends up using the relic, which you do just by saying the thing's name, which is Jin. I mean, obviously, we knew it was a genie. It's gonna end up being named something like Genie or Jin. So we see her say the name of the relic, and then it seems like all of time stops. Like, it doesn't stop, but it slows down just enough to where the snowflakes are falling at like an inch a second? No, not an inch a second, probably like an inch a minute. So it's like, okay, that happened. So maybe the relics do actually have the power to contort space and time. And that would actually be kind of cool to see if each relic could actually do that. Because if each relic did that when it was used, that could cause, like, huge problems in time and space. And then we see the formation of Jin and her coming out of the lamp. And she says, what do you want to ask? And this might just be me, but I get a real Arachnid and Starscream vibe from her. Like, she is really not getting my most trustful introduction list. The Cinder, when she's looking around and we see her wearing the cloak, and we also get a time frame for when the episode's actually happening now. So it was like, we see her pass by a thing that has the pictures of her, Hazel, Emerald, and Mercury, and we see her pass by that. And we see a little label underneath it that says 1 month ago. So this is apparently set a month after the fall of Haven. So we're like, okay, so that's when this is happening. So we know how much time passed now, so we know where we're at time-wise. And then we see she goes to a bar, or I guess a secret bar, I should say, with a bunch of people who all have, like, spider tattoos on their arm. And she talks to the lady who runs the bar and says, I'm looking for Team RWBY and Team Junior. And what I kind of like about this scene is when she pulls up the pictures on her scroll, they still have the Volume 3 quality of animation, so it actually kind of is funny. I'm kind of glad they didn't up it, honestly, because upping it would have been a little odd, since there would have really been no way Cinder would have had pictures after Volume 3. But I do like that they kind of kept the Volume 3 thing. It gives like a nostalgic vibe. And as she's talking to the lady and trying to convince her to find Team RWBY and Team Junior, the lady says, "Do you know I was afraid of spiders?" And Cinder says, "Did you learn to kill them?" And she's like, "No, the world needs spiders. I just made the spiders work for me." And then we see this tiny little glint in Cinder's eye. It's like, "Work for you. Go on." So I'm kind of thinking that Cinder is afraid of either Salem or RWBY, or both, because she doesn't really want to go back to Salem after having failed, after seeing what she did to Tyrion. And she also is afraid to go near RWBY because Silver Eyes, and she knows RWBY's going to kill her if she's all on her own. But the glint in Cinder's eye that we get kind of makes me think Cinder is thinking about making RWBY work for her to kind of take out their mutual enemy, and then Cinder will end up taking out RWBY, which I actually think could very well happen. Like, that could be a very useful plot point. Because, again, it'll be like if you take Starscream, because Starscream always helps whoever's beneficial to him in Transformers Prime, so it would be like that. It would be like Cinder goes to RWBY to get her to help them take down Salem, and then Cinder takes out RWBY the first chance she gets. Which, honestly, would kind of make sense to the spoilers thing that I believe it was Jack said at an RTX or a convention or something, that some of the characters in RWBY would be dying, including Ruby and Ren. So I kind of really want to see that, actually. I want to see if that's where it's going to go, because it does seem probable that that's a direction it could go. And honestly, I feel like it would be really cool to see that. Like, see Cinder working against Salem. That would actually be a very cool match. Leaving, the lady she was trying to get to find Team RWBY is kind of thinking about how much money she can make off of selling out Cinder. But then we cut back to the scene, or not the scene, but we cut back to Team RWBY and Oscar and Crow and Jin and Maria, and we cut to them talking to the genie, and she's saying, "You are in luck. I still have the power to answer," and Ozpin's like, "Shut up! Shut up! Don't say it!" And then she says, "2 wishes." Or 2 questions, I should say. I forgot she's not a genie, but she looks exactly like a genie and acts exactly like a genie. So this is really where the lines in the sand become more like trenches in the Gulf. So we see that everyone is really getting mad at Ozpin now. They're like, "Why did you lie? Why did you say the thing was out of power? Why are you acting so crazy right now?" And then Crow is like, he's about to say something, and we see that Weiss actually points Mertnaster right at his heart too. So it's like, they don't trust Crow either, but I think they trust him a little more than Ozpin, because Crow told them what they wanted when they wanted to know it. Ozpin hid a lot. Like, he hid a lot. And he's still hiding stuff, so they definitely would probably stab him first chance they got. But then we see RWBY actually asks Jin a question, which Ozpin did not like, because immediately after she asked the question, Ozpin was just like, he was there. He was behind her, and he was about ready to grab her. And then we cut to this kind of blank space, I want to call it, because there's really nothing in it but white and whoever is in that space. And it seems like only one person can occupy the space at a time, so everyone's receiving the same thing, but through their own head. So it's like, okay, we're all getting this story. And then we cut to probably what is the most expected thing from the trailer and the intro, which is human Salem. Salem, before she even got turned into whatever combination of Grimm and person she is, before she even probably met Ozpin, and we see that she is actually not that happy, because the genie even describes her as a lonely girl locked in a lonely tower. Well, not locked, I should say. More like guarded. Now, I really want to see where that's going, because I want to see what Salem's story actually is. Because that's like the one thing that we've not really gotten any insight on, is how Salem ended up the way she did. So I really want to see that. And if it ends up being that Ozpin turned her into that, oh, how the fallout shall turn on Ozpin. But overall, I actually really like this episode. Again, this is probably one of the best episodes of RWBY ever, and it really actually is quite a good episode. And I do want to see a lot of the stuff, like, I want to see the fallout for a lot of the stuff they built up in this episode. I want to see the fallout for Cinder's area, I want to see the fallout for Team RWBY and Ozpin, and I also want to see the fallout for some of the other stuff, like not only the fallout for that, but I also want to see like backstory for some things, like backstory for Salem, and possibly even backstory for Ozpin. Because if we're getting a backstory for Salem, most likely we're getting a backstory for Ozpin, since they've been at war for what, 2,000 years now. Regardless, I am going to leave this episode of Thoughts and Opinions on RWBY Volume 6 here. Again, if you guys do want to go check out the episode for yourself, the link to it will be down in the description. Episode 2 was just available for everybody today, and Episode 3 just got released today, but it's only for First members. So if you want to see Episode 3 early, you can go and sign up for First, and you can do that. Or if you want to just see everything for free and see it on Rooster Teeth's site, then you can just go there and you'll be able to see everything they release that isn't going to be First. And I'm pretty sure they're going to release all of RWBY as just everyone can see it, but they're still going to do the whole First thing for it. Regardless, I am going to leave this video here. Again, I will be deleting the first Thoughts and Opinions video, and I'll be making a new one, just because my thoughts and opinions have kind of changed on that. So I will be making a new one of those. It will probably come out, I want to say maybe, I don't know, 5 days after this, probably. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can slap the like button as always, and I'll see all you beautiful people in the next video.